Greenways Open Space Committee. I will call a meeting to order at 7:04. Would we please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Okay. Thank you all for coming this evening. I know we have a few folks that are absent, but I will call the roll. So Urbani, here. Weeks, Geist is track meet, Phillips,
here.
Loveday, Shelton,
Here.
Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Bloetscher is on vacation. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? And then we will approve the agenda. I would like to make an addition to the agenda under action item. And this will be for signage for open space trail rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. And we've already have approved the concept of this. It's just a question of, I think we're trying to finalize on some of the language in it, and we can do that pretty quickly.
I wanted to add, I don't see signage, just the regular signage on the agenda.
I think we have already made those, at least I took the liberty at the time when it was approved to call the company, and so I think they're being processed as we speak.
Is there one for Meridian Woods?
There is.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Because that came up, that
Yes.
the Conservancy has a lot of programs at Meridian Woods, and there's no sign. And,
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
people are
Okay.
looking for it.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes, there will be. Okay. Is there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So approved?
Okay. Moved by Miss Phillips. Second, Ms. Urbani. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. I believe you have a copy sent by Mr. Geist of the minutes of the April 2nd meeting that we had. So if you would take a minute to take a look at those. He did make a correction on the time where the meeting was adjourned at 7:48, not 8:48. We kind of frown on lengthy meetings of that nature. And that correction has already been duly noted. But I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 2nd meeting.
So it's changed to 8:48.
No, it's the other way. He had it 8:48, it's 7:48.
We were adjourned at 7:48?
Fast meeting.
We did?
I think you
Oh,
were
no, I wasn't
you
here.
were absent.
I
Maybe
wasn't
is
here,
there
so
a,
how
is there a
I'm
correlation
sorry.
here that we
Sorry, I missed it.
Mr. Geist was a little concerned. He was absent too, and he says a 48-minute meeting. What is this?
How'd that happen?
But Theresa, we're going to try to top that tonight. So, was that a motion on your part to approve the minutes as amended?
Yes.
Thank you.
As corrected.
Yes. Moved by Ms. Phillips. Is there a second?
Bert, I think Bert.
Second again?
Oh, I think so. Bert, did you, second?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the April 2nd meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Motion passes. We have no presentations that I am aware of, or we are aware of as of this time. You do have, if you take a look at your packet that I presented to you, the goals and objectives that came out of our study session that was presented. And I also sent it electronically and had you take a look at it, and as you needed to make corrections or deletions or additions. Keep in mind, as it has been our practice on the Greenways Open Space Committee, we many times set as goals are and objectives are, that we set them, that doesn't necessarily mean that you attain them all the time. I mean, it'd be nice if we had 100%. Next time you have all your testing and that nature, we all wish you have 100% on that. But we generally have a very good track record when it comes to attaining our goals. And we had discussion on these items at one point or another throughout the course of our this fiscal year. So, are there any discussion at this point on the goals and objectives for 24-25?
One of the things, and my memory's bad with these two meetings, did we talk about establishing an encroachment policy with a conservancy as one of our goals and objectives?
That might fall under the, where it says
there's
collaborate with the Nature and Land Conservancy and outreach programs. And again, that's a particular type of outreach. We do, and keep in mind, we do have an outreach, or we do have an encroachment policy.
We do.
We do, and the township does.
Okay.
So it's a question of, if we see people illegally dumping in the woods, that's a $500 fine. So that's number one. Number two, encroachments that are identified are generally turned over to the township enforcement officer
Right.
and the ordinance officer, and generally they try to proceed in a reasonable manner to modify or to eliminate the encroachment. If that doesn't happen, I mean, I know letters are sent and a visit generally is sent to the people that are encroaching, and then if that's not remedied, they take them to court.
And and that applies the same, it's applicable to the conservancy, the same.
That might be a different, because keep in mind, the conservancy is a private
private
organization,
versus
okay? And
government.
this is, right.
Okay. I'm gonna have to ask them about that. Because I can't remember where the idea came.
I would think illegal dumping, help me out, folks, the entire committee on this. That I would think illegal dumping in any property on Gros Isle would be, could fall under the ordinance for, up to a $500 fine.
I would think so. Yeah, I don't think you could get away with it just because it's private property.
Oh,
It's usually, a lot of times it's hard to identify who's the culprit, but that's the same whether it's ours or
the conservancy.
Right.
It's the same across the board. Let's see if I can clarify
yeah, but I'm just
that
saying,
with
but
them.
I would think it
Yeah.
would fall under that umbrella.
Okay.
But if there are no further discussion on the goals and objectives, I could entertain a motion to approve the open space, Greenways, open space goals and objectives for 24-25. Moved by Ms. Weeks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Phillips. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the goals and objectives for 24-25 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Good. Motion passes. Our next action item is when the DDA was making improvements on Macomb, one of the things that they did was there were at least 3 benches that normally had been placed and were sponsored by individuals on Macomb, and they have since been removed, and they were placed in storage. The question arose, and I know Mr. Bloetscher and I went and kind of retrieved these, and we went to, and so they were in the storage area over here, and they're now like in Mr. Bloetscher's rental's backyard. So it's a question of where we want to place them and how we want to place them in our open space trails. So we had a little discussion about this, but again, I would like to act on it so that we can actually respond and see where we want to put them. So I would entertain any kind of discussion or thoughts on, you have 3 benches. They still, I believe, have the individuals' names. Some of them are like memorial benches. And it's a question of like where, and they were normally on Macomb, but now, and the closest approximation I have is that if you go to the wildlife sanctuary off of Horse Mill, in that part of our trail, there is a bench there that I think is for Marie Smith, who was a former past president of the GROSSE Garden Club, is there, you know, in the, in our, right off our trail. So I just want to know how you guys would like to handle this, or how we should handle it, or if we need to table it in order to, but I'd like to get it done by June, or our next meeting, because that will be our last meeting at least until September. So any thoughts on that, and then we can act on it.
So we want them to go to trails,
Well,
benches.
you want trails, or are we thinking of putting them at the entranceways or at the trailheads?
Well, I think if it's an artificial material, it seems appropriate to not be in the woods per se. If it's made out of natural material, then deep into the area along the trail would be fine. But I think if you're sticking with artificial, it should be at the trailhead, just to keep consistency
Sure.
with our policy of not bringing unnatural material into the woods.
I was going to say they're composite. The base, I think, is made out of concrete, and the other parts are
Bench material.
bench material, like you know, Trex or whatever, the plasticize.
These things are pretty heavy, aren't they?
They're
Like, how are
huge.
we moving them?
Generally, we get the DPS, John Keim, and his front end loader, who's, you know, if you've seen John Keim in action, I know we all have. It's a question of he would load it in, and then we got to get it from point A to point B, get it to probably the DPS yard, which we can do, but they're very heavy. Yeah. The issue became, because that was the question too, is that Carl, in our discussion, wanted to put like a concrete pad in the middle, like if we were going to put them in the woods, to have a concrete pad, and that kind of runs contrary to our whole philosophy too.
Well, I could see the trailheads being a perfect location. Let's say you had friends and you said we'll meet up at the trailhead, and they got a bench to sit on while
While they're
you
waiting
know,
for you or something, right?
you know, if you're walking through the trail, you got, you know, the more natural, rustic Boy Scout type benches that, you know, we could build more of or incorporate, or, you know.
Right. I think TNT did that the last time.
Right.
You know, some of the benches that are in the Meridian Woods, for example, are made out of wood, and they kind of notched pieces, and they're there.
Right.
So it'd be an identifier too, where the trails start by having a
Right.
bench right at the entrance, other than the sign.
Right.
But
Well, you want to encourage people to, you know, the other point is having it at the trailhead encourages people to drink their water at that point and maybe throw the bottle in the garbage
Right.
instead of in the woods.
That makes sense.
Eat your snack there, that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't know, lots of reasons for the trailhead, I think, for those type of benches, rather than inside the woods.
Right.
Plus, it's just going to be hard to take them deep into the woods,
Right.
Right.
size and weight.
We have a hard enough time, you know, getting wood chips down, you know, in the woods at this point in time, because it's so wet. And right now, the woods are very wet.
How many did you want to place?
Well, we have 3. So we have 3 trails that we can put at the
Ferry and Meridian, and where's the other one?
well, you could put one
River?
on East River. You could put one at Meridian, and then put the other one on the ferry trail,
Right.
like in there. That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those would be
I mean-
good spots.
Any other thoughts on that?
Ferry trail entrance looks really awful.
Does it?
It does, I mean, it's just,
It's hard to see.
it's,
At least
right,
it
it's
is
hard.
for me when I drive by the ferry.
Right.
I mean, I never can see it really well. I just have to look for it.
And then once you pull in, it's just a big empty space of wood chips, broken trees, and
Mm-hmm.
and dead limbs, and
Right.
you know, it looks it looks pretty bad
Well,
right now.
That's,
Sounds like we can incorporate that in
that's one of our goals,
one
that's
of
what
the
I'm saying,
goals,
that's
right?
exactly. And my vision on that is like, hey, we're gonna gravel, if we have the money, pay for, loads of gravel and at least make some designated areas. Some places are natural areas to park, like if you're in the, wildlife sanctuary, you can park on the road, I mean, that's not a big deal,
But I think, to identify the trail problem that you're talking about is, those trailhead skinny, narrow signs
Yes,
that are, close to the road, reflective, because that's the same problem with the trailhead for the Centennial Farm trail as well. You can't see that.
right,
So people
no, I
don't
know,
where
and
it
that's
is.
another one we're gonna try to fix or try to remedy.
Right, so those
Okay.
two trailhead signs would, I think, solve that problem, or
Yeah.
most of it.
Very much so. So any other discussion on it, or is there a motion to,
I
place
move-
the,
I move we put them on the trailheads as discussed, and
Second,
okay? Moved by Ms. Weeks, second by Mr. Bonnie. Any further discussion? Don't want to put it in your backyard or anything? No. Okay. One question before I call the question is, do we then necessarily, if it's at the trailhead, do we want to put a concrete pad down?
you can.
No, I'm just saying.
Probably have to have something, won't we?
And a lot of times maybe we want to anchor it. I mean, not that we're concerned about people walking away with them because they're very heavy,
Well,
but
most of the time they're anchored for, so they don't tip over or
for
something.
security, yeah, right, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to do it right, a concrete
That's
pad.
probably the way to do it, right? Because the other ones are on Macomb, I think, or up and down on the bike path are also.
Right.
Okay. So we have, I can call all those in favor of the placement of the bench in the trailhead areas, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Good. Okay, motion passes. Good. We'll get on that. Thank you. Good discussion. All right, our next action item is the signage for our open space greenways trail areas, or at least at the trailheads. And I think Ray modeled this after the Conservancy, because I believe at some of the Conservancy properties, they have rules and regulations, and we've had this discussion before, and we've also have talked about, we've already approved, yeah, we're going to get these signs. It's just a question of what's going to be on the sign. So we're going to order those. So in your packet, you probably have, it's probably like on a yellow, golden sheet, something like this. Everybody have that? And we can make this a quick discussion, but as we go through it, I think we could condense some of these, or some that may not be, so we're okay, open dawn to dusk. I think that's a key element, whether we identify no bicycle riding at midnight and stuff like that in there. But maybe if we access, or use the word no access after dark, would that be,
Makes it more firm, like.
yeah, makes like, hey, no access, like stay out of the woods and, period.
Add or instead of?
I would add it. So I think the township, when I talked to Derek Thiel on this, he was a question of, we want to have a dawn to dusk kind of we need a ordinance to support that. Staying on the designated trail, personally, I don't have a problem if people are off, it may be a different thing in the Conservancy, but
Little exploration never hurt anyone.
well, that's what I'm saying, going off the beaten path sometimes. If we want to, ideally, the majority of people stay on the designated trail.
Right.
But if you're an antler hunter, or if you are a mushroom hunter, or if you're, it's starting to rain, or you're on a trail and practicality, I can go this way to my house, or I can stay on the trail. I'm going to my house. So
Right. Well, you just,
so
or you
I-
just
I
want to
don't
explore,
necessarily-
or,
right.
Yeah. I don't see a reason
I don't
for
have a
it.
problem with like deleting that.
Yeah,
So you don't have to stay on the designated trail. No alcoholic beverages or glass bottles. I think we'll agree with that. Shouldn't be boozing it up in the woods, okay, at any age, okay? I don't know about excessive noise or have we had excessive noise in any of the open space properties, other than
I
kids,
thought there
kids
was,
yelling maybe at each other, or?
That doesn't seem outrageous, like to be yelling in the woods.
I think that might be a good thing.
didn't somebody, was it Carl, that said there'd been complaints from some of the people on the Fairy Woods Trail that there had been a lot of noise somewhere on the trail, had bothered some of the homeowners around there? I thought I remember that.
I mean, I don't,
It seems excessive to write it in the use regulations.
Yeah, I agree.
because you have a disturbing the peace ordinance already.
Right.
He said that, though, I'm
You know what I'm
pretty
saying?
sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, if we move on, then I can make a comment on the last sentence that will
Yeah, I've got one with that.
would relate to what I'm trying to
Okay,
point out. here.
okay.
The
Go.
ferry trail is really the one that's most affected, I think, by,
Because of the close proximity to the homes,
right.
right? So we can keep it. I mean, I'm just saying,
I mean, it doesn't, I think the respect for the privacy of others is,
I'll leave it then. We can leave
well,
it.
I mean, we could take out the no excessive noise, because
Yeah.
when you get into, yeah, I mean,
Just respect
Some
the privacy.
shouts.
Well, okay, the idea, like if I'm walking through the woods and then all of a sudden I'm stopping and I'm taking a look at your, admiring your new addition or something, that's one thing, but it's another, or your house, but
Peeking through the back window.
peeking through the
yeah.
back window gets to be a little problematic, right? So
Right.
respect the privacy of others, I think is good.
Right.
No open fires, I would say that goes without saying. And if you know the woods as we know them, that's a big danger and concern. I don't know if we have discharging of firearms or hunting, not that I'm aware of. No feeding or removal of wildlife, or no removal of plants or wildflowers.
I would say no feeding of wildlife. I mean, if little Jimmy down the street, who actually just went out there the other day looking for a bullfrog, takes him out of the woods to play with him in his backyard and starves the snake of dinner, I don't think it's a big deal. But the downside of putting too much regulations on like that is, he's gonna grow up and have these memories of walking through the woods with his parents looking for mushrooms and flowers and frogs and snakes.
Right.
And he's gonna have a different reflection on nature and open space for the rest of his life. So I see it as no feeding the wildlife. Yeah, I mean, you don't want people, stuffing the ducks and having their bellies blow up kind of thing. But removal, who's going to catch something like a duck or a deer or, what most people would consider wildlife.
Right. I don't have a problem with,
So I would
I'm
say.
kind of torn about that. I mean, in terms of Jimmy taking the bullfrog, because he's gonna die in his backyard.
Well, you don't know that, but necessarily. But let's assume it
Right.
did. So so the snake doesn't get a bullfrog. But on the counter side of it, Jimmy gets an appreciation for nature that he's not ever going to forget. So I mean, I hear what you're saying. Poor bullfrog. I get it.
Right.
But there's an upside.
I just remember stories of my friends and my brother-in-law who would come home as a little boy, and he'd have not necessarily like a snake, or he'd have something of that nature. And I mean, that's and he's not being nasty to it. It's just a question of you kind of.
Well, he might be a little nasty
Well,
too.
yeah, the mere fact you're removing it from its natural habitat. But
Little crickets.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Fireflies.
Or, okay, well, here's the other, okay, wait, so I want to go fishing, and I know that in the compost pile that I find in the woods, I see this is a great place for night crawlers or all these other grubs and stuff, and I want to go dig those up. I can't do it, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, do we still dissect frogs in school?
Do you?
Science funding got cut pretty severely, so.
It's virtual. I think, don't you do virtual ones? But no removal of plants or wildflowers, I think I would keep that.
Well, I don't mind the removal of, but I would interpret that as if I wanted to go pick some flowers, I'm not gonna get arrested. But if I
Oh.
wanna go dig up a pine tree,
Right.
then that's a problem.
Well, that's what it is. That's
so-
what that is. Or wildflowers that are there, you know. There are May apples in the woods right now that are very, oh boy, those would look great in my backyard. Or, oh, there's trillium that's there, or there's Jack in the Pulpit that I know.
So
of.
I would say, yeah, as long as it's not interpreted as picking, I'm good with it.
Right, I would think. And again, you can have any, two things. You can have the longest list in the world or the shortest list in the world. If you don't enforce it, or however you enforce it, is sometimes, you know,
Pretty worthless.
well, yeah, I mean, if you don't enforce the laws or you don't enforce them, then why have them?
So what do we think about, so we're talking about removal, but what do we think about planting?
That is another good, you're right, because we have some residents that have taken it upon themselves to plant some stuff in the woods, you know, well-intended. And it's a question, and that's also on our discussion today.
Oh, is it?
But, yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're
Okay.
saying, yeah. I mean, because that's another, you know, I want to plant Phragmites because I think that makes a nice barrier.
Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, come on. Yeah, it makes a great barrier, but it also is invasive. So.
Well, I think if you mention it on the sign, it gives you more ideas. But I mean,
Right.
if you get to the point where we are, you know, having discussions in open space on some sort of social media platform, then you can certainly, you know, put out the concept there and how it could lead to,
Right.
you know, negative things that you didn't think about. So
Right.
if you have the urge to want to plant something in the woods, to bring it in front of the
Bring
committee,
it to this group, or, right, exactly. That's why we're
that's
here.
probably a better way to handle that. I think that would get you more cooperation.
There, please remove all Phragmites. So you can see.
Yeah, I know. Okay. No motorized vehicles except permitted by ADA, and we're talking about like if there were, you know, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, whatever they are. But if you are handicapped, then you have to use some sort of a motorized vehicle in order to get on the trails and that. No dumping of trash,
That should just be no dumping.
no dumping, period.
I said no.
I would like to add violators are subject to a $500 fine.
I usually see no dumping of any kind, meaning whether it's trash, whether it's concrete, whether it's, you know, leaves, Christmas trees,
Right.
no dumping of any kind.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that should be towards the top of the list. So the order of these should probably be looked at as well.
Okay. Dogs must be on a leash.
I say dogs must be under control of the owner. Dogs must be under owner control, I think is a better way to word it.
I know what you're saying.
You know, that's all well and good until,
Until the dog start bites another dog.
yeah,
But that's on the owner, right? So there is policies and procedures and regulations for that. If you choose, the open space committee doesn't need to get in the middle of that.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
How I feel about it.
Is there better language that might incorporate the whole idea besides just being under control?
Oh, you gotta have control of your animal.
I'm looking at the leash because I always have my dog on a leash because I know that might be great for your dog, but my dog's reactive.
Well,
And so I know, so your dog comes and attacks my dog because it's off a leash, and then it's like, okay, wait, my dog's not doing anything.
yeah,
So I'm
it's
gonna
on
kill
me.
your dog, you know?
On me.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know.
And that goes. That's the way the law is written. That's Michigan law has got nothing to do with open space.
Is that what Michigan law says, under owner control?
No, it has to be on leash,
Right.
public areas.
Why don't we put it like that?
Because we're not.
That's a public area.
It's, well, I say you either leave it off or you put it under control.
We'll wordsmith it, how's that? And we'll send it. No drones? I could care less about drones.
I don't understand that.
You know,
What is the problem with drones?
well, you're gonna hit a tree, good luck sometimes, but don't you have, we have drones flying all over the place as it is, right?
Is that a privacy thing, just for if it
Well, but
strays
there's
onto?
laws regarding that specifically. Like, we don't have to worry about that.
See, now she's getting my point.
Okay. Follow,
Right.
how about follow all posted signs? We don't have any signs that are posted.
Right.
Right, you know, okay.
The shorter, the better. No one's gonna lead.
No,
No one's gonna
first
read
off, they're not
20
gonna read
items.
these, so if they do, it's kinda like whatever, or, you know, it's like, you know, I was always thinking the guy, like, you know,
Which
no
get-
no hunting, and the thing's all shot up, you know, so.
Which gets to the last sentence, you know, I think the important thing is to please take all trash home with you. That's huge, and that should be in red. And you know, I think the no drones, I don't see the purpose of that.
No,
and,
I cut that.
I think
Follow
that
all
goes
posted
away.
signs or no posted signs, or directional signs, that's all.
and I think that goes away. So,
Right. Please
if
take
you
your
want,
trash
if you want
home
to
with you.
debate the dogs being on leash or not being on leash, I think that goes away because that's covered by other regulations and what have you. If it becomes a problem, the catch-all at the bottom is Grosse Hill Police Department
Authorized, correct.
is authorized to enforce all, and what I would say is add open space committee use regulations in all applicable laws of the township ordinances. So that means that as an open space committee, you see a problem happening and you have, you know, something in your bylaws change or you make a change to your use regulations, you don't have to go update the sign, or, you know, or somebody does something, you have, you know, they'll say, well, it wasn't on the sign. Well, you know, it's under the regulations of the township. So that's what I'm saying, keep the sign short, and you can deal with things on other issues. Basically, you don't want them dumping trash, you don't want them tearing up
Right.
stuff, you don't want them, you know, being,
Taking up
you know,
all the wildflowers, right, exactly.
so, act human, take care of your stuff, or we'll slap you later.
Any other comments, or Bert, anything?
You know, about the no open fires, you're gonna leave that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there is a fire ordinance, or there used to be, that was enforced, and it's not anymore because everyone has open pit fires now.
But this means in open space areas.
Yeah, I think the safety issue overrules that. I agree with you that you know, you could look at every one of these as being a law or a ordinance somewhere, and that doesn't need to be stated. But when it comes to safety and security,
Yeah, it's a safety thing.
I think you have to state it.
And it was originally passed because of air quality. Because a lot of fires creates, you know,
Right.
smog, and so we were trying to keep the air clean, so they were, you know, there were no open fires. Now and I suppose then you have to get a permit for an open fire. And I
Right.
don't know who does, how many people do, but you're supposed to get a
But-
permit, and it's just like,
But most certainly, there will be
Yeah,
no
in
no
open
open
space,
fires or
that's
no fires in
understood.
open space areas or off trails or
Yeah.
any of those seating areas.
it's just.
So
you know,
I think the
it's
other-
good- It's good to state it, because the community does have open fires.
Right.
So it needs
So
to be stated.
so the big topic here that isn't talked about, and that is, you know, camping or housing
camping.
in the open space. I don't know that you need to say that, or you want to say it,
I don't know if we've,
or
Have
the
we
fact
had
that you
campers in
can't
open
be
space?
there. They can't be there at night, so that kind of,
Right.
you know.
gone to dusk,
Dishes
so it's
that,
like,
so.
okay, you could,
Overruled.
No,
Move it.
I'm just, okay. Any other discussion? Do you want to,
With these notes,
right, and I have some too. Do we,
we'll amend the sign per the discussions and then submit for approval.
right,
By, what do you want to call it?
so what I'm saying is that, would
Motion.
you want to change the language and resubmit it to everyone? We can table this till our June meeting.
No, not really. I want to change it based on our discussions
Right.
here right now.
I agree.
And approve it electronically.
That's fine. I
And
won't,
move forward before the next
so is
meeting.
that your motion to
Yes.
approve with changes? To purchase the signs for open space trailways with the changes in the use regulations. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Phillips. Any further discussion?
So are we saying that we can vote on it electronically?
No, I'm saying we make the changes that we discussed, that we all agreed on right here. And we review it, make sure that,
Right,
that's
exactly.
that we caught everything. And so there's really no approval. It's just, hey, you missed this one. That's it. Does it make sense?
All right, all those in favor of the changes to the use regulations signage, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. And we'll get that to you ASAP.
Okay, great.
And naturally, as always, we'll run it past, Theresa, give me yours, and we'll run it past our township attorney and officials. Sound good? Next order of business is our discussion items in terms of dump the junk, find a treasure, and our Team Rubicon training. I can give a quick summary of the activity. Somewhere I have sheets here. Hang on. Too many. Yes, here we go. Okay, got it. First off, our spring event was held on April 27th, Saturday. We had 448 cars enter the DPS yard, and we had more than 100 additional treasure hunters who parked outside and then still visited the treasure. So it was highly successful. We filled 15 dumpsters with the big deposit was concrete more so and brick work. That obviously people are doing some major construction. Wood and just overall junk were there, and yard waste, in addition to the treasures that were generally on the other side of the DPS yard. That was also, I think, maybe not as many this year, would you say?
Was there a lot of treasures that was picked up, or was there just not a lot of it?
Less.
I think both. Okay, there was not a lot of treasures that were dropped off as we have had in the past, but that's that. Fritz Enterprises, we filled an entire scrap metal bin, okay, for Fritz. We had 105 tires that were going to be recycled, and obviously they're not ending up in open space territory or in our properties or in ditches or sides of the road. So that's going to be recycled by Silver Lining Tire Recycling out of Wyandotte. Every year, I think we're getting better and better at that, and so I think that's an awesome thing. I want to thank all of you who obviously spent most of the day, if not all the day, there. We even had Cliff St. Pierre come and help out, or certainly.
So on the, I guess, question on the tire recycling, they don't take them with rims?
They do not. Okay, apparently, you can. If you want to get rid of the rims, that would go into the Fritz, scrap metal. And a lot of people did that, okay? So I know I at least had 5 people that had taken them off the rims. But if not, we asked them to, and I'm not quite sure why. I think it's just a question of the processing because, the company that recycles, doesn't want to do that. I did have a lady who had a place up like near Cadillac she had 200 tires that she wanted to, get rid of. And, they're up in Cadillac. And I said, well, why don't you call a Northern Michigan recycler up there and try to figure it out, okay? And she said at one point in time, and I was like appalled, she said that, the people up there said just dig a big pit and put them all in a big pit. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I mean, come on, that runs so contrary to,
Light them up.
It's like, really? Or, so it's like, no. So it's,
Find their way.
yeah, really. I do want to thank the spouses, John Leon and Chief Weeks. Our Recreation Commission member, Scott Ryan, was our gatekeeper, did a great job as always. Special thanks to DPS's Derek Thiel and Donna Deppa certainly for coordinating the event. Thanks to John Kime and Rob Ponder and Mark Fasenhammer who worked that day. And also Hungry Howie's and owner Cliff Alcantara was able to give us a pizza lunch as he has done. So that's a good thing. We also were able to coordinate with the Rotary and the President John Bergen, and they had a very successful opportunity for Grosse residents too, from 9 to noon. They ran theirs just at the end of the Island Athletics driveway there, and we did have a number of people that pulled into that did both or two, or they had just stopped and shredded a bunch of stuff, and then they were stopping into our area to get rid of stuff or to pick up stuff. So that was a very good experience.
Yeah.
And Pure Data Services are owned by Grosse residents Russ and Katie Chambers, and they supplied their expertise in that shredding. So that was
Excellent.
Any other comment about dump the junk or?
There was quite
done.
a few people that commented positively on having the shredding there. So I think
Yes. So that was a good,
combination is
nice
very
combination. I thought so too. Good.
Excellent. Well done.
Yeah, very well. Thank you all again for your good work on that and that work. We didn't have, I will tell you this, we did not have enough treasures at the end of the day that we thought that Cass Community Services were going to be able to, to take or to want. And we did not send anything to the St. James rummage sale. Nothing
God.
at all. Well, maybe, you're right. Yeah, we had a few that were actually some valuable stuff. I forgot that. We were, Theresa, in your response to the last time we had a meeting on this, we did procure a storage area from the airport authority. And I want to thank Janelle Jacobs for at least allowing that to happen, but we didn't need to use it. So in the future, perhaps now we have at least, if we do have to, Cass Community Service sometimes, they can't get the truck on Saturday morning sometimes, or the Reverend Sue has to drive it down herself, and that's a little cumbersome.
Does Cash Community Services give you a heads up on the type of things they're looking for?
Yeah, pretty much, and they generally have, like the last couple of times that we have used them, they've been, they're a little more selective because they're looking at, I think they have the housing that they have for homeless folks or people are generally, or apartments are smaller and they have to be, there has to be kind of be a good fit. So that was that. I also wanted to tell the community and you all, and I want to thank Bert certainly for being there and helping out with the luncheon that we had, and also Ray Geist. But we had Team Rubicon, which is a group that's a support group for veterans that go all throughout the United States, and they are involved in disaster relief efforts with FEMA. So. They were here, they set up on Friday night, and they were here on all day Saturday. They worked on Nature Conservancy properties up on the north end, the Bruce Jones Preserve and the Hennepin Marsh Preserve that they worked in terms of cleaning up or in cutting trees. And they specialize in chainsaw, sawing, and proper techniques, safety techniques in terms of disaster relief. The Sunday they came to Meridian Woods, and it was very difficult weather. It rained off and on, but it poured off and on. and they were able to go through, and we've already identified trees that were hazardous or trees that were like leaners that could, potentially fall onto our trails. And so they were in there and they did a great job cleaning that up. And Mr. Gary Gamble is the chief, commander of the Team Rubicon. And they had veterans from who were like policemen. They're no longer in the military, but they're like policemen or they're firemen or they're teachers or they're professional foresters who went there and they practiced their skills. And so they were, you could hear the chainsaws going all day Saturday and most of Sunday in that regard. They also, I have to show you this, okay, is that the Open Space Committee was presented with a memento, okay, and this is, they call this a cookie because it looks like a cookie, okay, but also if you look very carefully, there's like two kind of smudgy eyes and it looks like a nose, and they presented this and it kind of had like a frowny face at that time because of all the weather, and it was so bad and the rain they were so wet. But they said, we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come to GROSSE and to, to practice their sawing skills, or sawyer skills, as they call them, and to do that. But I certainly, it was a great experience for them, and it was really a win-win for us. And so I think that's kind of cute. So we'll have to do something with this.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of like, what was that
Put it up
movie
in the
with
resource center.
Tom Hanks? It was the Tom Hanks movie with the soccer ball.
Soccer ball.
Okay, remember that one? Okay. There you go.
You could put it up in the resource
We'll
center.
put it somewhere.
For the Conservancy.
They probably got one, don't you think?
I don't know if they did or not. Okay, but certainly,
To check.
I don't know, but they gave it to us, so that was a great experience. Okay, anything else on that one? I believe that is it.
Back to dump the junk.
Yes.
One of the things that we realized was that we should end the treasure dumping or treasure donations earlier than the quitting time of the whole event.
Yes.
People roll in at 5 to 4 with stuff that's never going to be taken away. So whatever, if we want to decide to end that at 3 or 3:30 or something.
I'm not adverse to that. I mean, people can still pick up treasures
Right.
up until 4 o'clock.
Right.
They can't drop off, so drop off can be cut off, because otherwise it's just going into the dumpster, and it's just like, it's like,
Why bother?
why bother? I mean, okay, that's good for you, but that's certainly not good for the
So,
environment. That's not good.
So it's simple to control at the gate then.
Yes, so would we all agree that should probably happen? I don't think we necessarily need to have a motion on that. No, we're good. Anything else though on that?
That's a good idea.
Okay. We do have our next order of business. Theresa, I'm going to get you out of here. Our next order of business is, or at least discussion, is flower planting in open space areas. And you probably have noticed, if you've been in like the Meridian Woods at various spots, that have daffodils just miraculously have sprung up, okay? And they also sprung up on Conservancy property at the trailhead off of at the Meridian Woods on Meridian. And there's also some nice little signs that were also placed there that said, please don't pick the flowers, thank you, okay? And they're uniform, they look good.
We
And
got a flower fairy?
okay, yes, we do, and it's not Donnie Daffodil or Danny Daffodil, but the daffodils were chosen, as I talked to, actually, I'll out him, it's Mr. Vollenweider, who was also part of a project that we're working on with the Pullman Corporation to refurbish the bridge that we've approved and the township has approved. But we're looking at, he offered, here's the offer, I told him our concerns about planting the flowers and about, unauthorized plantings and stuff of that nature. But he is willing, and he wants to elicit the aid of high school kids, middle school kids, other, members of our committee, to plant 5,000 bulbs all over GROSSE, open space areas. The problem becomes, go ahead, Bert, I can take I already know what's the problem.
I think that's a great idea if it's not in open space. There's lots of public property where they can go, Four Corners and places like that. But open space, we should focus on keeping that to native plants and removing invasive plants like garlic mustard and Phragmites. But they're not,
Purple leaf
they're not,
strafe.
right, yeah.
Does he have a timeline on when he wants this to be done, or is it
No,
just
no, it's
completely in
kind
the
of like,
air?
this is it's in the
Okay.
conceptual
What's the
stage.
downside of it?
But he's,
What's the downside of planting things that are approved by you as native species? Are daffodils not a native species?
Right,
Daffodils
they're
can
not.
take over a lot of land quickly. Like, there's some risk to that.
The bulbs spread
Yeah.
quickly.
And they make the place look like a garden.
yeah,
You know, it's the same thing as having, a plastic bench. It's
right.
a jarring sight in an otherwise natural setting
Right.
that
Are
looks.
there options other than that, or?
Well, his thought, and the thought was like, okay, deer don't eat daffodils. Okay, that's one of the few things they don't eat, okay? But again, I'd like to find out, and here's, there's I hate to necessarily, I would not necessarily say turn away, but I hate to squash an idea that has potential, okay, and in terms of philanthropy and also trying to make Grosse-Ile a better place to live, and, but you also, maybe there are certain wildflowers that we can also find that deer don't eat, or there are certain things that we also may be able to plant. I mean that's just a possibility. But again, your point's very well taken about there are a lot of township properties that are not open space, that are visible, that we,
Or the township property, on the edge of open space, for example, we cleared that whole space of the power lines going down Meridian. That's not, that's
right, that's a DTE right away, right?
right away that, instead of going in there and trimming bushes trees and whatever grows back up there, I mean, if you planted some sort of bulb that wasn't, crazy spreading and wasn't, that was acceptable, that you could, solve that problem and, have that experience of, flowering plants as you're walking through the woods. But we did discuss, having areas along the trail at some point, like butterfly bushes and things like that, where you could sit in, attune with nature. I guess it comes down to what is the overall intent of the open space, to absorb nature or to absolutely keep it 100% untouched nature. And I don't think you can define it as that, because we already put trails through there, right? So, I mean, you want to get people in there, you want to have a nature experience. So I don't see doing it too far off from the trail, but certainly, and I see it being a very, iffy road. It certainly has to have some sort of approvals about what goes in there. But I mean, you could have experiences of, wild blueberries here, or strawberries, or what have you, to places along the trail that give you that experience.
The deer eat the blueberries.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
I mean, do we
There are
really
re-
care?
There are raspberries that grow wild at the Gibraltar Bay unit of the refuge on East River. Deer are a problem. Trying to plant stuff that they're not going to eat. Our property, where I live, we planted a prairie in our front yard, which is a lot of goldenrod and coneflowers and, ironweed, just a big variety, and a lot of it gets eaten, but there's so much there now that a lot of it stays. So, and in August, especially in September, the later months of the summer, it's it's beautiful with all the blooming flowers, but some of them are 8 feet tall. So, and they basically need sun, and so you're not gonna find a lot of those in the woods. The stuff in the woods are the trillium and the jack and the pulpit and stuff like that. So I would think, though, that, by the post office and places where, a lot of Grosse people go, I think that to beautify that space
That's a point well taken, because we know that there, where the old playscape area is, that's township property. Okay, we have a trail adjacent to it, but that could be an area. Four Corners, obviously, or other areas could be another possibility. I mean, the garden club, maintains a part of the refuge down, wildlife refuge.
Well, you certainly don't want anything
Sanctuary,
that you
bird
have to
sanctuary.
maintain, right?
Right.
No, you're right. I mean, so you want to put it there, but you also, you don't want to have, someone donate and spend, thousands of dollars, and all of a sudden it's kind of like you have the fattest deer in the, in southeastern Michigan.
At the study session, we mentioned how the area near the high school was becoming kind of decrepit. I mean, we could put some flowers there just to.
Yes. No, I think so.
Or,
Yeah, you're right.
or you could try and restore that to, a natural area, but it does, that is a challenging space right there.
Yeah.
The Conservancy is wondering about, and I am also wondering, because I'm working on the natural areas guide, so the playscape is gone. We need to talk about the trail that goes behind the post office, if it can be extended to the John C. Jackson Resource Center of the Conservancy.
Right.
So that, you could be there and access it. And if the trail, I'm not even sure if that trail goes from what was a playscape out all the way to Grosse Parkway.
Yeah, it doesn't right now, but that's another discussion that we need to have, okay? I think the police have some concern about that, and, for their own reasons, okay? But again, my vision would be to take it right to the bike path so that you could walk right behind there and go right to the, that's another way into the woods. It is open space areas, you have, but again, that's another point. But I'm just, so this is a great discussion in terms of how we want to handle it, or some possibilities. And again, we should explore that. So anything else on that point? I know, Theresa, you're getting ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that we need to come to a consensus in our head as to how we envision the open space. I mean, I would envision the Nature and Land Conservancy land to be just that, completely untouched and natural, and open space to be a little less than that, so potentially, or nothing at all.
And I think in some cases it is.
I guess I see them as pretty identical in every aspect except ownership.
Right.
Because there are trails and the Conservancy property, and
But
No,
it's
I'm
also open space is owned by all the citizens, and so the enjoyment of the citizens is one part of it, and what brings them in there and what makes them, enjoy that space and continue to pay taxes to, maintain it and keep it is a slight difference from the Nature and Land Conservatory, I think.
well, I guess that's a question for the roundtable tomorrow.
Yes,
If there's some-
yes, it is. Yes,
if
it
there's
is,
some
actually.
citizens,
That's-
yeah.
So.
Anything else on the flower penny, though? So I will at least tell our donor and benefactor that we are considering it, and we're also looking at studying where we may put it.
Yes.
Okay. Liaison team, you have anything to report?
I have talked to a couple people about setting up a social media, and I have some people interested, so we could discuss that further next meeting.
Yes. Because that way you have the summer to set it up, and we could be operational by the fall, which would be awesome,
Yeah.
Great. Excellent.
right? Thank you and I know Zoe was there, and I know Kaitlyn was ill, but You missed a good dump the junk, and thank you for your efforts on that. I know the Nature Conservancy did some work with the schools, the elementary school, in terms of like their Earth Day, activities. And that, good. We'll get to it. Carl is gone. Mandy, why don't you give us a little update in terms of what's happening?
Let's see. The Conservancy and the Resource Center, a new resource, the John C. Jackson Resource Center has been very active. On April 14th, there was a presentation on backyard birding. And Sunday, April 21st, there was an Oriole talk, which I attended, and it was excellent. We had about 40 volunteers show up for the April 20th all island cleanup. 40 is a good number, and it was really successful. The education team conducted an Earth Day cleanup with Meridian Elementary, and I think you were involved with that, weren't you, Bert? Yeah, and that went well. We had the grand opening of the Resource Center that has been having all these great programs. It's so nice to have a facility. We used to have the resource, not the resource, but the youth center for, a place to, have events. And they're just, other than the rec department, which there are a lot of events, but to have one on Macomb has just been really great. The opening was April 13th and 14th. They had a ribbon cutting ceremony, a special tribute from State Senator Darren Camilleri. We had the dedication and 6 entertaining talks on a variety of conservation topics in the 2 days, which were excellent and well attended. And there was also a history of the Conservancy that Kurt Kobliak and John Schweikert gave, which was very interesting, linking the past to the present and some of how as much of things have changed, they haven't changed. We have 2 events in May. Saturday was last Saturday, the 4th. They had a garlic mustard pole event, which from the email I read, was very successful as well. And they did it at Hennepin Point, and I'm not too sure where else they did the garlic pole, garlic mustard pole. Where else was it? And we're hoping to keep volunteers to combat this invader on some of all of our preserves. Also on Saturday, there was a presentation, Ribbit, Michigan Frogs at Meridian Wood. And yes, it was the same day as the garlic mustard pole. It was from 1 to 2:30 at the Meridian Road trail access across from Meridian School. And hopefully there was some learning about reptile and amphibian habitats, populations, diets, and adaptations for survival of this hands-on program. And this coming Sunday, June 9th, slithering. Snakes need friends too. At the Bird Sanctuary, the north end of Grosse at the intersection of Horsemill and Thoroughfare from 1 to 2:30. It is on Sunday from 1 to 2:30 at the Wildlife Center. And hoping to encourage everyone that got notice and signed up to participate in the Grosse Hill Master Plan process. And there's an online meeting of it tomorrow at 4 o'clock, right, Bill? And also by completing the surveys or any roundtable discussions that are of interest to each person. And they'll be access from the Grosse Township website, if that makes sense. Hopefully
Access.
that's not too hard to understand. I didn't read that too well. So, that's it.
Okay, thank you. I also want to publicly thank the Nature Conservancy for allowing Team Rubicon to use their facilities and coordinate with us in that event, so it was really a great job.
They were happy about it
We're
too.
very pleased. Teresa, anything on the welcome letters?
No, still
No.
waiting for.
We're waiting on the, right, exactly. At that point, if there is any public comment, and I won't use my joke about the buses are still circling the parking lot for public comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Weeks, second,
I'll second.
Ms. Shelton. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're looking at 8:10.
Right.
Not bad. Okay, thank you.